So I'm going to walk through the solar sizing tool and give a live demonstration on how to use the tool. The tool, like Rachel mentioned, is an Excel file, and it has 3 tabs in it: the Instructions tab, the Property Characteristics tab, and the Opportunities tab. In the first tab, for Instructions, it provides an overview of how to use the tool. Essentially, the main part of the tool is to complete the Property Characteristics page. Based on the information that's entered in the Property Characteristics page, the report will show you what the energy efficiency opportunities are at the property, and will also allow you to select potential electric load addition opportunities, such as electrification of gas or propane equipment. The next step would be to enter the historic electricity consumption as aggregated for the common areas and for the tenant accounts. And this will be provided to you via Power Clerk. Finally, you can review the overall outputs of the tool, and then ultimately you will need to upload the Excel file to Power Clerk at the energy efficiency compliance milestone stage. And additionally, there is a signature page that the owner will be required to initial and sign, and you'll upload that PDF to Power Clerk as well. So the next tab is the Property Characteristics tab. And as was mentioned before, this tool is intended to be able to be completed within 20 to 30 minutes by an experienced energy efficiency professional. So the overall data entry is intended to be very minimal. I'll provide an overview of all of the general sections in the Property Characteristics tab, and then I'll go through each of them individually. So the first section is basic project site information. The second is basic property information. The third is the envelope. Then hot water, heating, and air conditioning. Other mechanical equipment information. And then finally, a summary of the lights at the property. So to begin, there's notes in each of these cells to provide guidance on what should be entered. It's color-coded. The white cells are meant for user data entry, and the dark gray cells, again, are providing instructions, and then the yellowish cell is automatically calculated. So you'll be asked to enter your Power Clerk application number. You can get this direct from Power Clerk. So for this one, I just entered an example PG&E 123456. Next, you'll type in the property name as entered in the Power Clerk. You'll enter the property address, so the street address, the city, and the zip code. And the zip code is important because this will automatically look up which California climate zone is appropriate. So in this example, I entered the zip code for Stockton and automatically confirmed that that climate zone is climate zone 12. I could type in any other zip code and it would update that to reflect the correct zip code. Next, you'll enter the author. So whomever is completing this actual workbook edition, you'll enter that name here. So in this one, I entered the auditor's name of Jane Auditor. And then you'll enter the title of the author for this workbook. And so, as was mentioned before, at the energy efficiency compliance milestone stage, this workbook will need to be completed by an approved energy efficiency consultant. However, you can download and use this workbook whenever you would like. And so I would encourage you to use it even earlier in the project's timeline to confirm what the total energy efficiency and load addition impacts may be. And so if different authors are using this at other times, you can note that here. So if this is a property staff person, a solar contractor, or other that's completing this, you can note that here. But again, at the energy efficiency compliance milestone stage, it'll ultimately need to be completed and signed off by an energy efficiency consultant. And you can enter their credential information here. So it's the same list of credentials that was mentioned before. And then you'll enter the actual credential number for that person. The next is to enter the organization that owns this property. So whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit affordable housing company, you'll enter that information here. The primary point of contact at the property, their phone number, and their email. And then you'll select the electric and gas utility for this particular project. So I can choose from any of the 5 electricity utilities, as well as the gas utilities. So this property, the sample project's in Stockton, so both the electric and the gas utilities will be PG&E. Next, you'll enter the year built for the property, the number of apartments at the property, the number of buildings at the property, and the number of floors at the property. And sometimes, some buildings and some properties have a mix of, different sizes of buildings. Some might be 2-story, some might be 3-story. And so we're interested in the number that's most appropriate for this property. So if the majority of the buildings are 3 stories and some are 2, you can enter the number 3 here. Next, you'll enter the occupancy type. So this is really the demographics at the property. And so some are predominantly seniors or families, others are predominantly supportive housing or single room occupancy type, and others are mixed, and it could be all different types of demographics. So select whatever you think is most appropriate for your property here. You can also select other and type it in to the right. You'll enter the total number of bedrooms at the property, and this should be very easy to calculate. You should be able to get this information from the property directly. So in this example, we have 50 apartments total. Let's say, some of those are 1 bedrooms and some of those are 2-bedroom units, but overall the total number of bedrooms at the property is 80. So you'll enter that here. And then enter the total gross building floor area for the whole property. And so basically you're going to be adding together the square footage of each of the units. And again, this is usually pretty typically easy to get from the property owner. They'll often have a count of the unit types and the square footage of each, so you can build a very easy Excel calculation to get that total square footage. Next, you'll enter building envelope information. And again, these are all very simple drop downs. And so you need to choose the wall construction type, whether it's wood, brick, concrete, metal, or other. And then just a simple yes, no, is the wall insulated? So we're not concerned what the specific R value is or the insulation type, just yes or no, whether the wall is insulated. Similar for roof construction, so whether it's pitched, flat wood, flat concrete, or other. The insulation type in the attic or the amount, and again, just very general categories. So R0, which would imply no insulation, R19, R30, or R38. And again, use your professional opinion to decide what would be most appropriate if you think the insulation is in between one of these values. Next, you'll choose window frame type, wood, vinyl, metal, or other. And then glazing type, single, double, or other. And again, like I mentioned before, if it's a mix across the property, choose what is the most predominant type at the property. Next, you'll enter information on the mechanical systems. So domestic hot water, so that's water for showers and faucets, space heating, and air conditioning. And each of these are conditional. So the pick list is dependent on what was selected earlier to limit the amount of data that you need to go through. So for example, for domestic hot water equipment, I would choose whether it's central, which would be a water heater or a boiler that provides hot water to the whole property or the whole building, or in unit. Then whether that water heater is gas, electric, or propane, and then some general details on what type of water heater it is. So if I had chosen central electric, then my options for the water heating type are specific to electric water heaters. And the same applies for in-unit technologies. Similar logic on space heating type and unit or central. Again, central meaning that there's a heating plant that provides heating to all of the units. Fuel type, gas, electric, or propane, and then a basic selection of the heating equipment type. So in this example, I'm selecting a forced air furnace. And then air conditioning. So obviously all properties are going to have hot water and space heating, but not all properties have air conditioning. So the first question we'll ask is there an air conditioning system at the property? So if the answer is no, then you no longer need to fill in additional information. If the answer is yes, then select whether it's in-unit or central air conditioning, air conditioning type, and then based on that type, if it's a type of air conditioning that has a SEER value, and SEER is a descriptor for how efficient the air conditioner is, we want to know whether the majority of air conditioners have a value above or below 10, the SEER 10. So in this instance, I selected ducted split system AC, and do the majority of these ACs have a SEER value of less than 10? If the answer is no, then you select that. If the answer is yes, then you can select the opposite. Like I mentioned before, if it's a through the window air conditioner, those do not have SEER values, so you do not need to enter that additional information. Next is other mechanical equipment at the property. So the quantity of pools and spas at the property. Most of these projects are unlikely to have pools, but some do. So if there's no pools, then you can enter 0 and you do not need to enter additional information. If there are pools, you enter the quantity, whether those pools have a variable speed pump on them, which is an energy efficiency opportunity. So if the answer is yes, then you just match the number of variable speed pumps to the number of pools. Whether the pool is heated, and if so, whether it's gas, electric, or not heated or heated with solar. Same information if there's a spa. Then the surface area of the pool, and this is very easy to calculate. Usually you can even do this from Google Earth, especially if it's a rectangular pool, and just length times width. This will determine how much energy goes into heating the pool. If it's a high-rise building, so 5 stories or more, which I don't expect to be a large percentage of SOMAH participants, but if it is, those buildings often have a booster pump. So if there is a booster pump, you would select yes, and then note whether it's variable speed or not. Then also note whether the laundry equipment is central in unit, whether the dryers are gas, electric, or propane, whether the majority of refrigerators are older than 2000, and then the cooking type in the apartments, whether it's gas, electric, propane, or no, they have no cooking. Finally, you'll enter very basic information about the lights at the property, and the tool is only interested in the lights that are assigned to the common area meters. So this would be for 24-hour fixtures. So these are fixtures that are on 24 hours a day, most commonly in corridors, stairwells, parking garages, or lobbies. And then also 12-hour fixtures. And so these are the fixtures that are on all night, usually controlled by a time clock or a photosensor. So these are not the light fixtures that are used by the tenants on their patios or entryways. These are only the fixtures that are on the common area meter that provide site or whole building lighting. And the tool is only interested in lights that have not yet been converted to LED. So if all the common area lighting has already been converted to LED, you can check yes, and you are done entering common area lighting information. However, if not all of the lights have yet been converted to LED, you'll select no, and then you'll select whether there's 12-hour fixtures or 24-hour fixtures at the property. So, a lot of low-rise buildings and garden-style buildings are unlikely to have 24-hour fixtures, so they're unlikely to have, continually lit corridors, stairwells, parking garages, or lobbies. So if that's the case, you can select no, and you do not need to enter any information into the 24-hour column. However, I would expect that most properties have night lighting that's on the common area meter, so lights that are providing lighting all night long. So I would expect in most instances this would be yes, but it certainly could be no, and if that's the case, then no information needs to be entered. Then, based on what you selected above, you'll need to identify which non-LED fixtures are still at the property and very basic lighting types. So you'll select between incandescent, CFL, linear fluorescent, or high intensity discharge, but no other information is needed on the type. And then you'll put the lighting into general fixture wattage buckets. So for instance, at the property, if there's a number of CFLs that are 16 watts, and there's a number of CFLs that are 18 watts, and there's a number of CFLs that are 23 watts, you can put all of those lighting types into one fixture bucket. So in this example, this property had had 10 CFLs that were between 15 and 29 watts in the common areas, in the 24-hour common areas. Had 30 light fixtures that were between 5 and 14 watts that were using CFL, and similar logic for linear fluorescence. And then the very same thing applies to common area exterior lighting. So you'll note the lighting type, again, incandescent, CFL, linear fluorescent, or high intensity discharge. And then you'll put the total quantity of lights that fall into these general wattage buckets. And these wattage buckets are intended to make it very easy to count the light fixtures and to enter them into this category so that you don't need to have a super long list. And it's dependent on the lighting type. So for example, high intensity discharge, those could be very large light fixtures. They could be, 100 watts all the way up to 600 or 1,000 watts. And so there's these general categories for you to choose from. Whereas a CFL, those are most often going to be lower wattage fixtures, and very rarely they'll be over 100, but if so, you can note that here. And that's all you would need to do for the property characteristics tab. So again, we've gone through and practiced this a few times, and based on the information collected on site, or if you went through the pathway 2 that was mentioned before, so they participated in a whole building program, or they went through Title 24 recently, is newly built property, or went through a TCAC rehab, the energy consultant should be able to fill in all this information provided by those the property's participation in those programs. Finally, this is an overview of the energy efficiency opportunities, an overview of the electric load addition opportunities, and then comparing the two against historic consumption and the solar PV system that was entered into the Power Clerk at reservation request. So to start, this table, again, is going to identify all the energy efficiency opportunities that were noted in the units. These are wholly conditional on the existing conditions that were entered on the previous tab, and are wholly conditional on the measure opportunities that are provided by the utility energy savings assistance program. So only those that are eligible under ESA will show up as an efficiency opportunity in the solar sizing tool. So obviously there's going to be additional energy efficiency opportunities in the units at the property. And hopefully if you went through pathway 1, you're going to note those to the property owner so that they can identify additional savings opportunities for the residents. But in regards to how the solar sizing tool is sizing your PV system, it's only looking at the ESA eligible measures. And then very similar for the common areas. So the 3 measures that are being looked at for the common areas are the pool pump, 24-hour lighting fixtures, and the 12-hour nighttime fixtures. So in these 2 examples, we noted that the existing roof insulation was R0. The tool is recommending that those apartment attics are increased to R38, and the savings would be about almost 10,800 kilowatt hours for all of the apartments combined. On the common area side, converting the single speed pool pump to a variable speed pool pump would save almost 900 kilowatt hours. Upgrading the 24-hour lighting fixtures to LED would save about 4,800 kilowatt hours, and upgrading the nighttime evening 12-hour fixtures to LED would save almost 3,700 kilowatt hours. So these are summed together accordingly. Next, you can select additional load opportunities that you would like to consider at the property. So these are opportunities to convert natural gas or propane fossil fuel systems to high efficiency electric, to add continuous ventilation to the apartments for indoor air quality benefits, or to add electric vehicle charging to the property. And so there's a number of pre-selected load addition opportunities that you can toggle yes, no on, and it will automatically calculate what the load addition could be, again, based on the property characteristics tab that was entered before. So in this property, I'd mentioned that the space heating was a gas furnace, and so if I wanted to convert that to a heat pump, I could select that yes here, and it would show that this would increase the consumption across the property For the tenants, by a total of 9,900 kilowatt hours. And you can do the same thing for these other measures as well. If you would like, you can also provide a custom calculation for these load addition opportunities. Again, the tool is using deemed calculations, and we're hopeful it's useful for the majority of projects. But if you want to do more nuanced calculations for what you think the load addition should be, you have the ability to do that. You would just select yes here. You would enter the estimated load addition per apartment. So I could enter 1,000 kilowatt hours, and it's going to multiply that times the number of apartments in the building. And then you'll need to provide supporting documentation to the SOMAH PA team so that they can review those calculations and confirm that they're accurate. Similar applies to the common areas. So I could select whether I wanted to convert the central water heater from gas or propane to electric, and that would provide new load that a solar PV system from SOMAH could offset. Very similar for pool heating, as well as the quantity of electric vehicle charging stations that the property plans to install. And so you can enter a number here and it'll auto-calculate what the load addition would be. In particular, if your project does plan on adding electric vehicle charging stations and as part of the SOMAH PV project, this may be an instance where you would likely want to use the custom calculations because the amount of kilowatt hour load for electric vehicle chargers is very, very dependent on the use type, whether they're shared, whether it's just for specific tenants or property staff, the average mileage that users are driving. So in those instances, you can certainly use this number, and it's based on the residential average across the state from current EV programs, but you may want to use the custom calculation as well. And again, you need to provide supporting documentation to justify that. Finally, you'll enter the historic electricity consumption at the property over the last 12 years. And again, this will be provided to you via Power Clerk. When you submit your reservation request to Power Clerk, the SOMAH PA team will ask for this information from the appropriate electricity utility. And so you can enter that information here. So I entered 30,000 kilowatt hours for the owner paid accounts for the common areas and 150,000 kilowatt hours for all of the apartment meters aggregated together. And then you'll enter the Power Clerk numbers that from EPBB that were entered at the reservation request stage. So this is the size of the PV system that was originally entered at that step. So you'll enter the allocation to the owner meters as well as to the tenant meters, the system rating and CEC, AC, the CSI rating, the inverter rating, the design factor, and finally the total estimated annual production for the solar PV system. And in summary, you'll now see each of those things together. So you'll see the historic consumption relative to the efficiency opportunities and the electric load addition opportunities. And that's compared to the solar PV system that was entered at reservation request. The same thing for the for the tenants, historic consumption, efficiency opportunities, and load addition opportunities. And as long as the solar PV system is sized such that it's below these recommended offsets, then you're okay. If these recommended offsets are smaller than what the solar PV size was submitted, then that'll cap the incentives that could go to that SOMAH PV system. Finally, you'll click this signature page here, and the property owner will need to initial any alerts and then sign this. And then at the energy efficiency compliance stage, you will upload both the Excel file to Power Clerk as well as this PDF. And that concludes the live demonstration.